So I just got done watching The Trigger Part 2, and I will never be comfortable visiting the Washington Monument ever again. Also known as the plot of Final Fantasy VI, everyone is now racing to the center of the island and the obelisk where all of the power is kept. Predacons in the lead, Maximals on the back foot, which is usually how this goes. It is split up between Primal and Rat Trap trying to play catch up, the Flyers being idiots, BlackArachnia and Scorponok making the most progress, and Tigatron and AirRaiser dealing with AirRaiser being injured, as well as Tigatron still being incredibly reluctant to do harm to this island or do what is necessary. It's a lot going on in this episode. We will try to just go through it beat by beat. Really, it boils down to BlackArachnia wanting power and Tigatron wanting to protect the island. Those are our two main points, and everyone involved just kind of follows along and plays their parts in and of that. So the first thing that caught my eye in this episode is the fact that laser pulse communication is still a thing, and to my shock, it still follows the exact same rules as when it was first established. It needs line-of-sight communication, but it breaks through energon interference. Ironically, we learned that in the first Tigatron episode, and we did see it demonstrated in the first episode of The Trigger as well. So it's cool that they're actually maintaining a continuity with their technobabble situations. This was the first episode where we got to see like real interaction between Tigatron and AirRaiser. And people ask me, when I did the Here's 10 Best Romances for Valentine's Day, people ask me, why didn't you include Tigatron and AirRaiser? Well, because they didn't really have a demonstrated romance until 1 minute before they were removed from the series for good. That is why it wasn't on the list, because it literally lasted about 1 minute. They are definitely friendly here, but there's no indication of any kind of romantic connection, and we would only get a vague hint of that before their departure from the series. So, just to explain that little that outline question, that's why they didn't make the list. It was just too brief. They are nice to see because they are the two that prefer to be out of the base, so naturally they would get along well. Let's see, what's some good points to talk about here. So the debate in this episode is, what is this island and why is it designed the way it is? Tigatron views it as a paradise that forces you to be peaceful in order to enjoy it, but that doesn't really explain the random death traps that are not only marked, but triggerable without any kind of aggressive behavior. And Rat Trap deduces that this is some kind of puzzle. It is a test of anyone who happens to end up on this island of whether or not they are, I assume, peaceful enough to not get blown up by the obelisk, or and as well clever enough to not get caught by any of the traps. And there's room and argument for that. I'm not sure I necessarily agree because, once again, instant death traps. You have to be like, I don't agree with a paradise where you have to constantly observe every single detail to make sure each and every one of these symbol. I don't even know if I can rest in the shade of a tree on this island without triggering some kind of trapdoor underneath me. That doesn't seem like a paradise. Now at the end of the episode, we do see the obelisk's last act is to send a communication off through transwarp space, no less. So of course, Rat Trap is probably right. And just like most of the alien technology, it's basically like them turning the entire planet into a lab experiment. We'll see the culmination of that at the end of season 1. But for now, we are still dealing with the obelisk and BlackArachnia. BlackArachnia is so good in this episode. She is cunning to a fault here. Not only recognizing the traps, but also being able to trick the Flyers into distracting the obelisk, realizing that the obelisk itself needs a chance to recharge before firing that big laser again. She takes advantage of that well and gets rid of Scorponok and Waspinator in the process, which you'd think, well, I was going to say you'd think they'd learn after getting blasted out of the sky by this thing once already. Nope, because it's Pterosaur and Waspinator. Of course they didn't learn. I'll give Waspinator credit. In this episode, he had a really good aerial fight with Primal, to the point where it almost exhausted Primal just to deal with him. So good on Waspinator. You actually pulled off a pretty good battle against the most powerful Maximal. Also, good on Rat Trap for tricking Pterosaur. That was actually a funny part of this episode in general. Pterosaur just had to gloat because Pterosaur. So, BlackArachnia taking control of the obelisk. Of course, like that has to be how this episode ends because, otherwise we don't really have a big plot. And I love what it demonstrates. This is the height of BlackArachnia's villainy in this series. It's the most power she's ever able to obtain, and it's an overwhelming amount of power. Now, as the series goes on, we'll learn exactly why she wants power for herself. Here, it is merely to destroy enemies, and that does, by her own words, include Megatron. Megatron, who never showed up once in this episode. This is the only episode where Megatron does not show up in any way, shape, or form. Also, I'm going to say this right now. Why is there no repaint? Why is there no Trigger BlackArachnia? Same as like Predacon Rhinox. I'm waiting for the Selects 2-pack, like the Power Corrupts 2-pack of Silver BlackArachnia, Trigger BlackArachnia and Predacon Rhinox. Why is that not a thing? Why is that not a thing, Hasbro? Because I know Hasbro watches each and every one of these episodes. So, let's see. But showing her at this point where she's just completely power mad and hysterical over the destruction she's causing, to see what she becomes, to remember her like this and then realize what she becomes by the end of the series makes her arc all that more fascinating and all that more powerful. So, cool to see here. I think it's interesting that this is her first major plot in the series, and it's something this major and this destructive. Like, she nearly won the Beast Wars by herself here. Yeah, at the end of the episode, Tigatron has to make the hard decision to destroy the obelisk and thus destroy the flying island. And there is a heavy-handed, we never learn, war is bad kind of message. I don't necessarily agree with Tigatron's sentiment that they proved unworthy, because it really was just the Predacons that were at fault here. You can't, it's unfortunate that there is still that kind of, the war between the sides, of course, but you can't just blame, you can't just go oh, we weren't worthy. No, it's pretty much just BlackArachnia's fault. I think, Tigatron, I think you were completely worthy. I think even the Maximals themselves, maybe with the exception of Dinobot, would probably be fine on the island. Just not BlackArachnia. So it's a little bit heavy-handed, but it's a very well-put point. And I think the fact that the episode doesn't really end on I guess the episode ends on a victory, but it is a bittersweet one with the destruction of the island and, a paradise lost. And a very somber Tigatron. And somber is a Tigatron we're going to see again at some point. It's kind of a running theme for him. Overall, if I'm going to grade both episodes, it's an enjoyable sit. Not masterful. It's just shy of that, not for any real reason other than there's not a lot of depth to it. We get to see a good showing of a villainous BlackArachnia. We get to see Tigatron really torn over his responsibility versus his desires. And it boils down to an episode between the two of them. And it's a very well done episode. I just don't think it hits at upper echelon because we are in Beast Wars. I need to save that for very special episodes. But this, very good. Very good. Give me Silver BlackArachnia, Hasbro. That is another Beast Wars episode review. Thank you guys for watching. I hope everyone is enjoying it, and I hope for my Canadian friends you're enjoying the Beasties series review. Join me tomorrow. Let's do it again, shall we? Guys, I am facing the most powerful enemy any YouTuber can face, the algorithm, and I need your help to defeat him. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and leave a comment. Every time you do, we attack that algorithm and we drive it back until it can no longer defeat this channel. Thank you very much.